Hey folks, KILT-MAN here. KILT-MAN, Comrade KILT-MAN at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, Rasputin, or to give him his proper name, pronounced correctly, Rasputin, as in Putin. Rasputin. Although we don't say it in this country, or the Western world, we call it Rasputin. Rasputin. It's more aggressive and a very shadowy, enigmatic, bizarre, sinister, misunderstood figure in history. A legend, a folkloric superstition, a mystic, a preacher, a holy man, a charlatan, a saint, a sinner. He got right into the higher, elite of the Tsarist monarchy, the Tsarist empire, and worked his evil magic upon it, his influence. And it proved to be his downfall, did it not? And many legends were born out of Rasputin. And it's a fascinating topic without a doubt. I've read a lot about it. He's often hailed as a horror figure. You get books on, Dracula and books on, the mummy and the werewolf and all that. And Rasputin seems to get himself in the pages too, in a little chapter of his own. Rasputin the Mad Monk. A, he was not a monk, and B, he wasn't mad, but he was a very charismatic, very influential character who did create a lot of trouble and rock the boat, rock the establishment for the Tsarist regime and brought it down basically. Anyway, enough of the historical stuff. We're going to talk about that at length, I'm sure, because Hammer Horror in 1966 did their own version of the Rasputin story, and it didn't go down very well with anyone really, which is a shame because it's a great historical sort of it's almost like the Ladybird book of Rasputin. It's very loose. It plays loose and free with so much of the legend. A lot of it's in there, and the broad sort of strokes, broad brush strokes of Rasputin's life and death are addressed, but it omits a huge element: his background, his family, and his politics, and all the amount of people who actually amassed against him at the end. But anyway, Hammer took it on board, and it was directed by Don Sharp, who would do a few Hammer movies. What would he do? A quick resume: Devil Ship Pirates with Christopher Lee, who plays Rasputin, Kiss of the Vampire, and a couple of Fu Manchus. And he'd go on to do a lot more of the movies, including Bear Island in later life. And Hammer had done historical stuff before. Whether you regard Fu Manchu and Robin Hood as historical stuff, but they were historical period pieces. But they'd done The Stranglers of Bombay and The Terror of the Tongs, both of which were based on real life activities in far-flung exotic locations. And then they got this. And Tony Hines wrote it under the name of John Elder, as usual, and Don Sharp directed it. And this was during a period when Hammer was doing back-to-back movies, very American concept of doing two quick movies shot back-to-back. They did this right after doing Dracula Prince of Darkness. Check out my review, I did that only very recently. And the idea was it's cost-cutting. You're using most of the same cast and the same crew and the same sets. Now this was during Hammer's illustrious Bray Studios period. Bray Studios and Blackwoods. And Castle Dracula, as it stood in Dracula Prince of Darkness, is now the Winter Palace in Russia, in St. Petersburg. And these films, they also did Plague of the Zombies, which is over there somewhere, over there, and The Reptile, who's right here behind me. They did them back to back, but of course you use the same cast and crew and the same sets for those two films, but you don't release them together, because the idea would be you make them back to back, but release that film with a double bill with another film, because otherwise audience would be sitting there going, hang on, wasn't he in that, and wasn't she, didn't, and it would prove to be quite confounding and possibly annoying for audiences. So it didn't work out that way. So they broke up the back-to-back movies and released them on double bills with other movies altogether. But this came right after Dracula Prince of Darkness. And on set, whilst filming Dracula Prince of Darkness, Christopher Lee, the great Christopher Lee, of course, who, wouldn't you know it, he met some of the murderers of Rasputin, some of the assassins. And in later life, he met the daughter of, hang on, not Rasputin. Well, it may have been. Rasputin actually had quite a family to begin with. He met either the daughter of Rasputin or the daughter of one of the murderers. Again, like, Christopher Lee was great for name dropping. Don't forget, he was a cousin of Ian Fleming. So he met all the spies and he did all sorts of stuff in World War II. He was a Nazi hunter, don't you know? You've got to take a lot of what Christopher Lee said with a shovel full of salt over the shoulder. He did know a lot of people, he did do a lot of things, but he didn't do as many things as he would like you to believe. But anyway. So, Don Sharp directs this. Christopher Lee stars as Rasputin, the Mad Monk. Grigory Rasputin, who was a peasant farmer from Siberia, had his own family, and then at some point he, again, history sort of is going to encroach on the real movie itself. He then takes us off on pilgrimages around the world. He goes to the Holy Land, Jerusalem. He goes to Greece. He goes to Outer Mongolia. He goes to all the holy shrines that the world knows that he could get to. Does a pilgrimage and learns religion. Never once became a monk, but he used all this knowledge that he had to you know, well, some people say pretend to be a preacher, but he did know his stuff and he did sort of believe in it, but he didn't practice what he preached. He was a lech, a debaucher, he was a rapist, he was an absolute complete and utter drunkard, womanizer. So, a life, you know, with the gods almighty ain't all bad, is it? Cheers, y'all. And Christopher Lee gets to play him. And after like so many movies playing monsters, The Mummy, The Creature from Curse of Frankenstein, and Dracula with next to no lines at all, suddenly Christopher Lee gets a role which really celebrates his acting abilities, and don't we know it? This film, if nothing else, is a massive showcase for Christopher Lee, and he is extraordinary in this. He's brilliant. This is perhaps, I mean, we all love Christopher Lee, but I've said many times, his range was very limited compared to, you know, the other Titan of Terror, Peter Cushing. Props, Peter, who had a lot more range, a lot more ability to do stuff and act out of the established character, where Christopher Lee didn't seem to have that ability, only because he wasn't allowed to do so. But in this, he gets it. Don Sharp and Hammer give him free reign to do whatever the hell he wants, seemingly, and my God, he rises to it. This is an absolute, you know, a cavalcade of Christopher Lee antics, and he owns the movie. Now, I said before, Rasputin is a very fascinating character, and this story had been told before in the 1930s with the Barrymore dynasty, and three elements of the generations of the Barrymore acting clan were in that, and it was known in some quarters as Rasputin the Mad Monk. I think it was known as, the actual title was Rasputin and Alexandria or whatever, something like that anyway. But it got into a lot of trouble because half the people who were depicted in the movie were still alive, and they sued, you know, whoever did it, was Warner, 20th Century Fox, whoever did it, they sued the arse off them. So Hammer now realised this, because even though 1966, you know, it's 3 decades later, some of the people were still alive even then. They thought, let's change some names. So what you get in this movie is a hodgepodge of characters who did exist, Some are amalgamated into one particular character, and some are just renamed altogether. And it eliminates, as I said before, all the politics from Rasputin's antics in the Tsarist regime. So anyway, in the film itself, we start off with it's a typical tavern, ye olde tavern, but this is Russia, this is old mother Russia, and the landlord's oh my God, you know, I can't serve anybody because my wife, she's ill, she has a fever, she's sick, she's terribly ill. So him and his daughter and his son are trying to tend to the woman who's all like, oh, woe is me. And inside the bar, the tavern, you've got Brian Wilde, Foggy from Lesser Summer Wine. He was also in the TV show Porridge. He's also in Night of the Demon, the great M.R. James adaptation of Casting the Runes, Night of the Demon, which I've discussed a hell of a lot. And he's there with a big fake beard on him, and look, we need service here. What's happening? You know, well, the innkeeper's wife is not well, and they're all tending to her. And the door gets flung open, and in walks Christopher Lee, statuesque, great big boots on, big baggy pants tucked into them. You know, some kind of like shepherding sort of, you know, smock. Big mad long hair, rangy long hair, centre parted, and a big long torpedo beard, whoa, down there, and blazing eyeballs. In this film, Christopher Lee did not need the contact lenses he would often wear as Dracula. His own eyes were so full of blazing flame. He was in character and didn't need any contact lenses. And my God, he's mesmerising. He walks in there. Where's the innkeeper? He wants drink. 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 I want drink. Feck. Nuns. Drink. Drink. Well, the innkeeper's wife is not well. So he strides up the stairs, flings the bedroom door open, pushes people aside. What's wrong with her? You know, she has the fever. Back away. I'll sort this out. And he puts the hands on. The hands across her face. I think he does a bit of this sort of rosary stuff first, and hands get all sweaty, and he draws the fever into his own hands. So I've cured her. It's in my hands now. Now serve me. And she begins to speak. So the innkeeper's like, "You've done it. What? How can I ever thank you? Just serve me wine now. Music. I want dance and music." And this is the thing. It's historically accurate to say that he was well known as a healer. Where he got these abilities from, no one knows. Were they true abilities? No one knows. But the facts remain that he did go into people who were not at all well. This is the real Rasputin. Put his hands on and seemingly cure them. He was also great at, you know, sort of enchanting and hypnotism and mesmerizing, that's the word, mesmerizing. So whether you can choose to believe that he made the patient think they could feel no pain, so they didn't feel pain and got up and walked away, even though their spine was snapped in two. Whatever he did, these people got up and felt better, and everyone around, then the word of mouth spread. This guy, he has the healing hands. Now, whether you believe that sort of stuff or not, I neither know nor care. We've heard down in Portsmouth, we knew of a woman that, this is going back some years now, who used to practice the healing hands, and we got scoffed and like, oh no, get another drink. By the way, we never met her, but everyone around, all the locals, insisted how true this all was, and she was getting on a bit now. And but people were still went to her. They had migraines or, you know, arthritis. They'd go and see her, and you know, if you believe, you believe. And this is the thing about so many superstitions and folkloric events and characters like this. If you choose to believe, you will believe, and they can make you really truly believe because they have that power, whether they're hypnotists, mesmerists or whatever, but they've got it. So it works in cahoots. So anyway, Christopher Lee does this, and then he's dancing around, he's having a great time, And, you know, well, what reward can I give you? I don't want no reward, you know, but maybe this is your daughter. So this teenage daughter who's got a fella, a suitor in tow, but he takes her, and like, anyway, her fella comes in, and the fella is no less than Brian Marshall. Brian Marshall, you say, from TV's Warship, from so many other TV shows and movies. But for us, the Long Good Friday, he plays the corrupt counsellor that Harold Shand has to take in hand. And yeah, it's Brian Marshall. He's a much younger guy in this, like, and he comes in, and that's his fiance, I think. And he's at the bar. He's like, you know, who the hell's that? Like, well, he just cured the innkeeper's wife, you know, and now he's like, but he's got his hands on your missus. Oh, give me a drink. And more dancing, more music, and he turns around, and suddenly Christopher Lee's disappeared with his missus. And they're in the barn next door, and it's getting a bit fruity, and like, oh, the hands are going up the top, and the top's coming off the shoulders. They're rolling around in the hay. And Brian Marshall plays Vasily. And I think Brian Wilde, Foggy, plays Vasily's dad in it. Anyway, Vasily goes in there, takes a side off the wall, and like, you know, and attacks Christopher Lee, who, not only being a brilliant hands-on sort of mystic. Sorry, the camera's going to do its little magical thing of falling off the tripod. No cat involved in this. She'll be around later to wreck with the Russian dolls, I'm sure. Seen that? I didn't have many Russian things to put out in the background, but Russian dolls seem to fit the bill. And Kentucky Fudge has now sprouted a huge Rasputin beard, and he's got one of them big Cossack hats on as well. You know, so he's playing his part. So when the fight goes on, and the side gets turned around on Brian Marshall, Vasily, and he gets his hand cut off. Rasputin cuts the guy's hand off, and you see like it's Roy Ashton did the makeup effects for this movie, of which there aren't many. This is not a Dracula movie. The hand comes flying off, and there it is, a little fake hand in the hay. So, and like, this poor girl, that's her fella, but she's smitten with Rasputin. But she's a bit like, I didn't expect any of this. And he's like, well, he won't disturb us again this evening. Come here. Vasily goes back in, and hand missing. Ooh, points with his good hand, you know, a bastard in there. That Rasputin fella. Big mob turns up. They've all got weapons. So Christopher Lee has to engage in some fisticuffs in a big brawl in the barn, and he beats them all. And then using like a great big, whatever the hell it is, some barn scraping tool thing, punches a hole through the thatch roof, boosh, 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 ha 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 ha, and climbs up and out, and off he goes on a horse and rides through Black Woods. Now this bar, this tavern, the exterior is what you see in it's the Huntsman's Cottage in Dracula Prince of Darkness. So remember I said, like, it's filmed right directly after that. Oh, I know what I was going to say before. Whilst filming Prince of Darkness, Christopher Lee went to his co-star Francis Matthews in that film and in this, and gave him books to read on Rasputin, and kept checking them every day. Have you been reading the books I gave you? About Rasputin, we're doing that next. I want you to know the character, I want you to know what you're dealing with. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm reading it, Chris, all right, Christ almighty, you know. So that's how seriously Christopher Lee was taking this role. So, that bar tavern thing is from Dracula Prince of Darkness. It's the Huntsman's Cottage where some of our characters wait, you know, for carriages and stuff like. So it's the reusing of all this sort of stuff again. And he gets away, but he gets reported for his antics there. And the monastery, don't forget, he's not actually a monk at all, but anyway, he gets reported there, and he climbs over the wall, and he has to report the next day all his cassocks and his rosaries. What is this? He comes striding in. Christopher Lee is really indomitable in this. You know, he's regal and aggressive and assertive as Dracula, or as anything really. But as Rasputin, he has this complete command over every room and set, and all the other characters who might be amassed around him. And he gets a bit of a dressing down. You will apologise because they're there. The hand is on a table in a little sackcloth. Yes, well, you did this, but we're not concerned about that right now. The things you've been doing, you've been fornicating and blah 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 blah. So I will not apologise. My time here is done. And off he goes. Next we see him on a carriage, a wagon, and a horse is heading wherever. And for Hammer fans, this is a bit of a sort of like, why did you do this? The guy next to him, the guy who's an old sort of carter, is like, got the horses going. And he's talking about St. Petersburg. Oh, you should see St. Petersburg. It's a wonderful place, Governor. The ladies there. The dancing, the clubs, the music, the nightlife. Oh, it's wicked. But you need money to go there. He's dubbed. His voice is dubbed over by Michael Ripper, the great Michael Ripper, who is not in this movie. And yet so many character roles could have been given to him. The innkeeper, this guy for one thing. But they use his voice to overdub this guy. For whatever reason, I don't know. So Michael Ripper, for fans, he's in here, albeit in voice. But you need money to go there, yeah. We haven't got any money, have we? And Chris just goes, we'll get money. And he calls him Little Father. By the way, this guy, voiced over by Michael Ripper, you only see him for like literally, I think, 90 seconds of screen time. He's like, what do you mean? Well, because we're going to St. Petersburg, Little Father. We're going to turn around and go back there. Ha ha! And takes the reins and like commands the horses and veers off St. Petersburg. And this, to be honest, this is quite a nice semi-large scale set full of bustling activity. Carts, wagons, stalls, cobbled streets, buildings. But it's only shown for literally 3 or 4 seconds on screen. But it gives the impression that you've gone a bit bigger than Bray Studios. You haven't. This is still Bray Studios. But it's so brilliantly dressed up. It looks great with all the amount of extras there. The Carter with Michael Ripper's voice has now disappeared. But Christopher Lee as Rasputin is now in St. Petersburg. And he finds himself in the Tanzig cafe, bar, restaurant thing. He's got to make some money, you see. And if you look at this, look at the steps coming down into this place. Again, it's Castle Dracula, or rather the basement of Castle Dracula, just revamped again. That's the beautiful thing about Bernard Robinson. Does the production art design on the movie, and he's the best in the business. Just redress the sets, move a door from there to there, move a staircase from there to there, put archways in where they didn't used to be, put beams and tables. He just redressed the set. So everything you see in this movie was in Dracula Prince of Darkness, but just it's now rearranged, refurbished, redecored, and recoloured. So shut up. You can't get the full score for this movie, for Rasputin the Mad Monk. The score is done by Don Banks, who did several other Hammer movies. And what you're hearing now is some of the score which I could get for Rasputin, and the rest is from his other movies for Hammer. But there's a bits of dialogue thrown in there. But anyway. So he goes in there, he's going to make some money. And this is where we meet Dr. What's his name? Oh, Boris Zarkov, not Zarkov, that's Flash Gordon. What's his name? Boris Zargo, played by the great Richard Pascoe. Again, there's a lot of fake beards stuck on, which are fairly obviously stuck on beards, but it works, it's fine. And like, our boy's there, Rasputin, he's drinking vodka and all that, but now he needs to make some more money. And then Boris Zargo comes in with his mate, and obviously this guy's a heavy drinker, and like his mate's like, Dr. Boris will drink anybody under the table. Who wants to put some money down? Who can drink more than Boris? And of course, Rasputin's like, oh, I can do that, because this guy can drink. in the opening, you know, in the inn, he's done about 3 or 4 bottles of wine before he even starts thinking about bedding this bed. So he sits down, and it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark with Marion, you know, in the Tibetan, you know, a joint in Tibet, in Nepal, and they're drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. And I go, but Christopher Lee's just like, you know, this is a doddle for me. And then Boris just goes, he's falling over the place. I will dance a jig. Gets up, fucking, well, he gigs around, falls down. He's lost. The money all comes to Christopher Lee, who's now just like, more wine, more of your sweet Madeira, and all that. Now, in the meantime, we meet 2 couples, and I think I may have got this wrong now, because these characters are the composites and the amalgamations of real life characters. And you've got Francis Matthews. By the way, 3 of these were all in Dracula Prince of Darkness. You have Francis Matthews playing Ivan Keselov. Now, that's a name change. He's actually Prince Yusupov, who was the guy that assassinated, well, one of the guys that assassinated Rasputin. This camera's going to do something, isn't it? It's determined to take a tumble. I do apologise for this. Anyway, maybe it's Rasputin's influence. It's tilting things. He's there with his girlfriend, or his sister, played by Susan Farmer, who was in Dracula Prince of Darkness, playing Vanessa, I think her name is, Vanessa. And he's also with his mate, Dinsdale Landon, playing Peter. And Peter's there with his sister, Sonia, played by Barbara Shelley. Yes, big back Barbara Shelley. Now, they've been at a big function, some state ball thing, because these Francis Matthews is playing a prince. The other guy is something high up in the Tsarist regime. And the 2 women they're handmaidens for the Tsarina. And I didn't put her name down, did I? I'll find it though, don't worry. The Tsarina, that's the wife of the Tsar Nicholas II. And so they look after the kids and look after them, they're handmaidens. But they've been at this function and they got a bit pissed off with it, because it's so, you know, it's all elite and boring. It's a stock shot, this is not a hammer shot. You see a huge state ballroom with a huge sort of chandeliers and big staircases and a big polished marble floor, and hundreds of people cavorting around and dancing. That is not from this movie. That's been shoehorned in. I don't know the film it's from, but it's been put in this movie. And then you cut very successfully to R4, and Barbara Shelley, Sonia, is like, no, I'm bored of this. Come in, let's go to town. Let's go to a nightclub. So she shepherds everyone, the other 3, and off they go to this same tavern, this same cafe bar thing, the Tanziga place. And when you get in there, obviously this drinking contest is in full flow, and Christopher Lee is commanding the whole thing, and everyone's like, ah. So they watch a bit of this, and the fellas are kind of, it's a rough place, this, we shouldn't be here. But Barbara Shelley as Sonia is like, no, this is great, it's fantastic. And they get the best wine, and she goes, I don't want that stuff, I want vodka, give me vodka. So, are you sure? It's, you know, it's going to mess with you. And she goes, I want vodka. And she just downs it, whoa. And she burps, big Bronx burp, like, you know, bleh. And then she starts laughing hysterically. And then the other 3 join in with the laughter. Now, in the meantime, Christopher Lee's won all the money and then begins to dance one of those Cossack dances. And before we go any further, back in the day, doing these videos, I used to like do a lot of sort of reenactments and mess around and do sort of like, you know, playful versions of something you'd see in a movie. And I thought for this one, I'll do some Cossack dancing. So I went on YouTube and I found some lessons in doing that thing, you know, hey, but you're on your haunches and your feet go out, and you do all this and your feet come out and all that kind of crap. Hi. And I couldn't do it. I tried it here, and you know, you realise just how old and unflexible you really are. I discovered parts of my body which had never hurt ever before, which are now killing me from doing that. So it ain't gonna happen. But you've got Christopher Lee. Well, Rasputin is dancing and giving it lots of fancy footwork. The camera will zoom in on the fancy footwork, and then it'll zoom to like a long shot of someone whose back is turned to you, and then it'll do a close-up of Christopher Lee with his arms in the air and he's going, hi, 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 hi. It's done reasonably well. It is not Christopher Lee who's doing the footwork. It is not. Yes, we know Christopher Lee can probably do all this. He'd have told us, yes, I'm an expert Cossack dancer, you know, and I'm a sword fighter. I can fly planes upside down and through the water. I built submarines. It's like Donald Trump. Everything Donald Trump says that he's done, and you know, and it did it really well. It was the best. You know, I built the wall across Mexico. It's the best wall ever built. Christopher Lee's a bit like that. Everything that he says he's done, you know, it's the best it's ever been. But he ain't doing this dance. But the scene is he's dancing away and everyone's like clapping and, you know, for him, hi, 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 and all this kind of shit. And but Barbara Shelley, Sonia, is now laughing at her own sort of I'm drunk. So they all start laughing, but she's laughing hysterically, and Rasputin thinks that she's taking the piss out of him. He stops, and it's Christopher Lee with them blazing eyes and this long shaggy hair. In reality, Rasputin's eyebrows met in the middle, you know. Maybe he's a werewolf as well. And he strides over with his big galosh boots on. Oh, you are laughing at me. You will apologise for laughing at me. And she turns around and she's like, ha, ha, ha. And those eyes, the mesmer stare is upon her. You will apologise. Now look here, says, what's his name? Peter Dinsdale Landon. Gets up. Now look here. And Christopher just flings him aside. And he goes cartwheeling off out of frame. So the strength is, we've seen him fight off a bunch of ruffians in the barn, so we know he's powerful anyway, but the eyes are there. So anyway, the next day, after all this kerfuffle, and they're in the carriage going back, I think, and Peter's going like, you know, it's lucky that, you know, we left when we did. I was gonna take him down. And Francis back is like, yes, of course you were, yeah. You last seen flying across the tables. Anyway, the next day, she goes in to the cafe to find out where that man last night, the one who was dancing, the one with the long hair and the beard, do you know where he lives? And the innkeeper's like, kind of like, yeah, but you want to watch yourself, you know, because it's dangerous. She goes, I can look after myself. And off she goes. And where he stayed, because he only met Boris that night, this Dr. Boris Zargo, and he's gone back. He principally takes him under his arm and takes him back to his residings, and he stays there as well, obviously in the best bed, and makes Dr. Boris, you know, sleep on the couch, because he has this commanding presence and like, I won the money fair and square, but now I'm going to look after you because I'm going to use you. Yeah. So she ends up there and like, what do you want? Well, I've come to apologise. And this is a great sequence of two superstars from Hammer, Christopher Lee and Barbara Shelley, who've acted together, obviously, beforehand in Dracula Prince of Darkness. Some more wispy dialogue. And you come to apologise. So apologise then. Well, I'm sorry. And he said, kneel. What? And kneel before me. Kneel before Zod. And down she goes, like, and he fucking slaps her one. Boosh! And Dr. Boris is like, I think he's like, Boris, go get some food. Go and buy some food and some more drink. So Boris goes, and Christopher Lee, who are you? What's your name? I'm Sonia, I'm a handmaiden to the Tsarina. And he's like, are you now? So he's clearly put her under some kind of mesmeric spell. He then in a rather, risque scene for Barbara Shelley especially. He makes her undress and her clothes fall from her shoulders and fall to the floor and all that classic cliched shot. And we see, lovely legs and all that when she gets in the bed, and he has her. He basically, has his wicked way with her, and she's all over him. She's fawning all over him because this is the power of Rasputin. Rasputin had harems of women. He did. He wasn't a good-looking guy. He wasn't. He had a huge pockmarked face. His hair was scabby and full. His skin was awful. He wasn't, a great catch physically, but apparently his sexual prowess was, legendary, as many professed to knowing. And he loved it, he did. So the film depicts that. Well, it does depict it. It definitely does. So he has his wicked way with her, and then Boris comes back with the food. He's like, oh, you're a bit embarrassed. That's my bed, You're making a big mess of it now. And so you look after the Tsarina and the Tsarina's son, the Tsarevich, they're called Alexei. And this is real stuff. This Alexei, the Tsarevich, only a young lad, was a haemophiliac. Bleed internally, bleed externally. Any injury, bleed, and was always really ill. And in the film, Christopher Lee goes like, look into my eyes, look deep into my eyes. You will arrange an accident for the Tsarevich, the little lad, tomorrow. I can't get, no, you will not kill him. Arrange an accident, and then when he's ill, and the Tsarina asks for help, you mention my name. You send for me. He's already seen an angle there that he can exploit. Now, in the film, it's done in the most simplistic of ways. In reality, it was far more inveigled, and there's a lot more power and politics behind his sort of clandestine encroachments within the Tsarist regime, the Romanov family. He clearly wanted power. In the film, he wants power, but you don't really know why. What's his end game? You just don't know what it is. So anyway, yes, I will. And Boris is like, what the hell have you done to me? Like, little Boris, don't worry, we're going to be well looked after. Ha 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 ha. Oh, and Sonia, you owe me some money. It's like he's pimped himself out. No, I've bedded you. You pay me for my services. Put the money on the bed. Ha 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 ha. Christopher Lee's having a ball doing this. So she goes back to the palace, and it is the redressed Dracula Prince of Darkness Dracula exterior set, and it looks better in this movie than it did in Prince of Darkness, where it was frozen over. The moat was frozen over, and it's just salt they put down there and polystyrene for ice blocks and all that. It's just salt. In that, it doesn't look realistic at all. In this, perhaps because they're wearing great big sort of winter fair coats and big frilly, fairy hats and all that, like, maybe it looks more convincing simply because of that. There's still no breath coming out their gobs. It's frozen over, and the lad, the Tsarevich, is climbing across the walls and going around one of these big pillars. And Vanessa, who's barely in this movie, by the way, Susan Farmer, who's in Prince of Darkness, she's barely in this film. She comes out and she sees clearly Sonia is under this auto-suggestion, and she pushes the lad, and he falls off, tumbles down onto the frozen moat. And one of the coachmen runs down now. He's alive! He's alive! And like, what happened? Yeah, and she comes. Because he just fell. I couldn't save him. He's alive though. So he gets whisked off to bed, and the Tsarina. I did not write her name down. Just one sec. It might be on this. It might be here. Renee Asherson plays the Tsarina. Renee Asherson. We'll not mention the Tsar because the Tsar, Nicholas II, is not in the film. He's completely omitted from the film. for probably very good reasons, but he's not in the movie at all. So the Tsarina, who I just mentioned her real name on it, which is Renee Asherson or something like that. We meet her, and she's lovely as well. And she has all the doctor, the cleric, the bishop. Joss Ackland's in this as well, playing a bishop. Joss Ackland, it's a very small role, but Joss Ackland's in here. And, I've done everything we can now, there's nothing I can do. And Sonia goes, there is a man in town that I've heard who's a healer. His name's Rasputin. I can find him for you. Well, find him, bring him here now. And of course the word gets sent, as he knew it would do. So Rasputin knocks on the door and all this, and the door's open, and in comes Christopher Lee, looking about 8 feet tall, striding like Saruman, but with dark hair. Saruman in the dark comes in, and the bishop is there, like he's like, because he said previously, I want to meet this man. He's a healer, he's a prophet. I've heard about him. I want to meet this man. And of course he walked in, and he goes something like, he goes, brother, puts his hand, extends his hand. Christopher Lee just completely ignores him, just fucking ignores him, strides up to the bed, ignores everybody basically, and puts his hands on the kid's head. He will survive, he'll be fine. Mama? Yeah. And she's like, this is the Tsarina. How can I ever thank you? What reward can I give you? I want no reward. But he's already worked his magic now, because he's the go-to guy. So in a bit of shorthand in the movie, the Tsarina now always feels ill unless she's around Rasputin. So she arranges to meet him for some, she sends the doctor or Sonia, whoever goes round and says to Rasputin, the Tsarina wants to see you, for a private sort of session, a practice, she needs help. Well, of course, but it can't be here for obvious reasons. Meaning Dr. Boris's abode. It can't be here for obvious reasons. Oh, I'll sort it out. So the Tsarina gives him a great big bloody palace of his own. It's just Dracula's castle, just again revamped with a different exterior, And so he has this place. So he and Boris, I told you, little Boris, we'd move up in the world. Look at this. Not bad for a peasant, he says, as he's striding through this redressed Castle Dracula. And it looks fantastic, palatial. And we find that he's now got a harem of women who come to him for their ailments. And they go to his little private practice room, his session couch and all that, and he'll put them under a spell. And he's knocking them all off. He's having a whale of a time, but they feel great when they're with him, but they feel terrible when he's not around. Which is kind of he had harems in reality of women who went to him for problems, but also women who were devotees of his religion, so he would preach to them. But again, he was shagging all of them as well. The guy was incorrigible, and so he's got the Tsarina there, and well, of course, history will say that they had a massive sort of affair. They had a huge physical entanglement, but he put his mesmer stare on the real life Tsarina as well. But in this, I don't think he's knocking her off at the same time in the film version, but he definitely hypnotizes her again and again and again. It's to keep himself in there with the Tsarist regime, the power. So where's Nicholas? Well, in the film, the Tsar himself, where is he? Well, I don't think he even gets a mention at all, really. In reality, the real story, Rasputin was doing all of this, but where was Nicholas? Well, they'd started the First World War, hadn't they? And the Russians, trying to look after Serbia, were on the Eastern Front, but they were losing right royally. It was a catastrophe for the Russian industrial complex, the Russian economics. Everything was crumbling. And they, in the first year and a half of the First World War, they lost 1.5 million soldiers were killed. So it was all a disaster. So Nicholas II, the Tsar, went out to the campaign to oversee the campaign, physically oversee it. And don't forget, the great big retreat as well happened. So he'd left, the Tsarina to oversee everything, the government policies and all this, and the authorship of Russia. But he left Rasputin there as well as her aide, as her advisor. And of course, in reality, people were thinking, hang on, this ain't working. The country's falling to rack and ruin, and we don't trust this guy, this gypsy, this peasant. So the politics side is left out of this movie. It's just, who wrote the script? Did I write down who wrote the script? Oh yeah, it was Anthony Hines, wasn't it? As John Eld. I did say before, didn't I? They eliminate all that, and it's probably a good thing, because this is a film of 90 minutes-ish, the usual running time for a Hammer movie. So they put the politics angle into it. That'd be another 20, 30 minutes. It'd be a 2-hour movie, and Hammer were not going to do that. So all this political angle is obviously removed. Now, we're all right for a little bit. I'll explain why in a bit. There's a piece of music on here which could be copyrightable, problematic for me, but it's so fitting for this. You can probably guess what it is already. I did play a little snippet at the very start of this video. Anyway, so the Tsar is away and he's having a great time, but of course they have to give the conflict. In reality, people wanted to take out Rasputin because he was given the wrong information, and there was a lot of people who thought that he was working with Germany, that he had spies and other accomplices who were out in Europe and working with Germany to secure an arrangement between Russia and Germany, which the Russian people and Russian aristocracy did not want. The military machine did not want that. They're at war with them. They didn't want this at all. So he's a traitor. So we've got to take him out. So that's the reasons why they took him out. In the film, it's simplified. Sonia goes back to see him because she's smitten with him, and he's got another woman there, and he's in the laboratory of Dr. Boris. Oh, I should say, Dr. Boris, Richard Pascoe, has been struck off because of misconduct and all this sort of stuff. Probably pissed as a fart whilst doing surgery. And but while he's got the Tsarina under his spell, he says, you will now remove your doctor and as your personal physician and replace him with Dr. Boris Zargov. I got that name wrong again. I keep forgetting everyone's name. You'll replace him. And this happens, and this doctor comes in and says, what? I believe I've lost my job because of you, Rasputin. You said, well, that's the way it is, little doctor. Would you like to meet your replacement? Boris, little Boris, come in. And this doctor goes but you've been struck off. So you get this sort of animosity between certain factions who don't like the screen Christopher Lee version of Rasputin. Anyway, this doctor gets, right royally fucked off. And but Sonia goes in there to profess her true love for Rasputin, who's now got other women in, so he doesn't want her. You've served your purpose now. Go. I will not go. And you get this barnstorming sequence between Christopher Lee and Barbara Shelley, who go at it. Once she realizes, you don't want me, well, I'll kill you then. And she goes for him. And they're in this laboratory, Dr. Boris' laboratory, and he has this great big, one of them great big sort of huge jars of glowing liquid. He goes, that's acid. Watch out for the acid. Acid. Bit of foreshadowing there. And this fight takes place, and she goes for him, and he goes there, and he's laughing at her I no longer need you. You are nothing to me. And he grabs her, his hands by her like that. And Barbara Shelley, as great as Christopher Lee is demonic, and his severe, presence is all encompassing. But Barbara Shelley, the way she cowers and is in utter fear and in thrall of him is brilliant. She acts it superbly. Barbara Shelley has said many times that whilst on set, half the cast and crew were mesmerised by Christopher Lee's performance, literally, because the power of his eyes, the way he inhabited the character, he really exuded that charismatic presence who could command you to do anything he wanted. He bends you to his own will. And in a way, there's so much of stuff about Christopher Lee that I don't believe. It's massive embellishment, a lot of embroidery by himself. But I can believe those eyes look, you watch this movie, it burns through the screen, it burns through the celluloid, it burns through your TV screen. You can feel that power of him inhabiting this character, and it's totally, you know, three-dimensional and a full, you know, powerhouse. And he's got like that. You will go from here, and you will destroy yourself. Do you understand? You will destroy yourself. So she does. She goes and slits her wrists. This was a scene that was cut. Apparently you did see her slash her wrists. What you do see now, you see her brother. This is what's his name again? Oh, God Almighty! No, it's not God Almighty. Dinsdale Landon as Peter goes in and he finds her lying there, Barbara Shelley, with her wrists slashed, a bit of blood on the floor. It's not that nasty at all. You've got to remember, this is not a horror film. It gets put up there as a Hammer Gothic horror, and it's not a horror film. Yeah, it's a severed hand and it's slitting wrists and all that. And there's other bits. The whole mesmerising sequences and his intimidating presence is quite imposing and terrifying. But this is not a horror film. Don't go into it looking for that. The little sideline delights on the horror sort of spectrum are nice little extras, but the film isn't built around those. Anyway, so Peter finds her dead, and he knows that he's driven her to it, because there've been little conversations behind the scenes, like, you know, he's evil, he's got power, he's controlling people and all this. And he and Francis Matthews have sort of spoken about this. We've got to do something. We've got to, you know, stop this guy. And and with the death of Sonia and the way that Boris has seen Rasputin acting with everybody, he's now, right, I want nothing to do with this. So he turns on Rasputin as well, and he leaves. You know, I don't need you anymore, and you know, what you're doing is wrong. This power you've got, you're using it for the wrong purposes. I won't do it anymore. I won't do it anymore. So he leaves. But you've had like the three conspirators. So Peter, Keselov, who is the real life version of Yusupov, and Boris, are now the three conspirators. There's actually many more. In reality, there's many more conspirators, but there's only three in the movie. It's for strictly personal reasons. So they arranged, you know, how to do this. But in the meantime, Peter's found Sonia, his sister's body, committed suicide / wrists. So he goes for revenge. Now Boris has left the Rasputin's place, but Peter gets in there, kicks the door, and he's got to save her. You know, Rasputin, you know, I've come for you. And actually, this scene is quite cleverly done. And you've got like the lovely opulence set, and you've got Peter prowling around, but you hear Rasputin's voice, Christopher Lee's voice, be like, yes, I'm here. What do you want? And then begins to mock him. I want revenge. You killed my sister. You killed Sonia. What of it? She served her purpose. She's nothing to me. And it's just his voice booming around the shadows. And you do see some great shots of Christopher Lee's face in an otherwise completely black screen. His face just leans out with those eyes, unblinking eyes. And it's wonderfully shot. Who shot this? It's Michael Reed did the cinematography on this, and it is great. But these shots of like just his face looming out the shadows, and it also in equal darkness, his own face lit up. You've got Peter, you know, stumbling around with his saber, and they meet in the laboratory. Remember the laboratory with the jars of acid? Yeah. Ha ha ha. You can't take me, or whatever, you know. Have a face full of this, you bastard. And chucks a big jar of acid on poor Peter. He's like, and again, don't go expecting big melty face thing. It's like someone just sneezed very badly on him. It's like, oh god. And he's got this big splatty thing on his face. He's like, oh. And he stumbles out the place. He's half blinded. He gets up the corridor, goes out the front door again, and disappears. Well, and like she just got Christopher Lee's just laughing in the background. But the plot to take down Rasputin Francis Matthews has got this idea. Don't forget, it's either his sister. These two couples. I think it's two brothers and two sisters. I can't quite remember how it works out in the movie. It's not the way it is in reality, but anyway. He knocks round for Rasputin, who's opens the door like, "What do you want?" "Oh, it's just a bad time." "Yes." "Well, I won't take a few minutes of your time." "Yeah." Oh. And you can see like Rasputin's like, "Oh, fine, then he comes in and says like, "Look, I've got a proposition for you. I want something in return for what I can offer you." Because Rasputin has said to Sonia and other people how much he fancies Vanessa. Vanessa is played by Susan Farmer, who's barely in the bloody movie, but he's the blonde one as opposed to the buxom redhead that is Barbara Shelley. But he fancies this one, and anyway, so Frances Matthews is saying like, yes, she speaks about you, she hates you, she can't stand you, but she talks about you all the time. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. So if you'd like to meet her and put your case forward, I can arrange a rendezvous between the two of you, somewhere secret. Yeah, and you can sort this out between the pair of you. But I want something in return. I want, whatever he says, it's all bullshit. It's just to lure Rasputin to a place where they can take him down. Oh, and this is the bit. Oops. We'll play that at the end, maybe. Bony M and rah Rasputin, which is perfect, isn't it? You know. Anyway, so like, all right then, I'll be there. You know, champion. Francis Matthews playing very sort of effete and louche, but it's actually a good scene because his plan's coming together. He just needs a Hannibal cigar. I love when a plan comes together. And all that kind of stuff. Yeah. "Oh, you're going to come to the play? Brilliant. Be there at midnight," or whatever the time is like. So they arrange this. Now Boris has turned tails and turned on Rasputin. So he's there too. Now look, he's a doctor. So we then find that they've got a big, one of them huge big confectionery boxes of chocolates, and he's injecting them with cyanide, and also the sweet Madeira is now laced with poison as well. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the reality of all this. And in the film, he injects the chocolates with cyanide and the fucking whatever it's called, the Madeira wine, and he then hides. And then Rasputin arrives, and it's like, "So where is she then?" "Oh, geez, no, give her a chance. She wants to arrive late. Should we just give her 10 minutes?" "All right then." And like he strides around this parlour room and sits there. He's got a big, lovely crimson sort of satin silky top on and a big sash around him and big baggy pantaloons, great big galosh boots, and he's playing with his beard and smoothing down his big centre parted fucking monk's hairdo. No, monk's hairdo. They had nothing, didn't they? Monks had nothing. So there again, this guy's not a monk because he's got tons and tons of hair. And he sits down, crosses his legs. Oh, chocolates. And he starts pacing up and down because obviously he's waiting. Because they're waiting for the poison to take effect. They think the poison's going to kill him. "Oh, have as much wine as you want." So he goes like, half a bottle's gone in there. Finish off. Another bottle. He's doing that, and he's eating more and more chocolates. And like outside, you've got Francis Matthews. Inside, hiding behind a little partition, but watching as well. You've got Boris trying to see that. "Oh, I put poison in everything. Why the fuck isn't he dying?" And Francis Matthews as Kastelov goes outside on the steps of Castle Dracula, which is the same set again, like, and he's there, and he sees. It's quite a creepy scene, to be honest. There's something moving in the sort of foreground, and he's what the hell? He comes down some steps and looks beyond this little the banister, the stone banister, and it's Peter with his acid burnt face. He's crawled all the way there, half blinded. It's like, "Oh, he got me." "Well, don't worry, we're going to get him. Oh, we'll look after you. But Peter, you'll be fine." Peter's like, "Yeah, acid's killed him." So bastard, you know. And suddenly upstairs, he hears screaming from that room because suddenly the poison's taking effect. And Christopher Lee's like, the worst stomachache imaginable. Oh, God, Jesus, hits the deck. And like Boris comes out like, and Boris is like, oh, yeah, we've done it. And as he leans over the body of Rasputin, his eyes just go bang, and he goes for him. So a fight takes place there, screaming. Francis Matthews runs up, and like Boris comes out, he goes like, he won't die, he won't die. Oh, well, we'll finish him off now. And the two of them rush into the room, and they can't find Rasputin anywhere. Where the hell is he? Well, he was here a minute ago, and Rasputin's been crawling round, his blazing eyes. Oh, I'm fucking gonna have you. And he's hiding behind a settee, and he launches out and he pushes them this way and that. He throws a knife into the back of Boris. It's like, and has a big, extravagant, not death. See, he doesn't quite die. He thinks Rasputin can't die. He gives him a run for his money here. Oh, a knife in the back. Big protracted, arms and legs in the air, and keels over. And then you get the next big cut in the movie, and this is a huge, huge cut. Because what happens is, Francis Matthews as Kassilov had a massive fight with Christopher Lee's character, Rasputin, which they filmed. It took 2 days to film this. 2 days out of a 6-week shoot. That's quite a chunk of acting, performing times and filming. So 2 days, and they trained for it. And Francis Matthews did all his own stunts, rolling over settees and getting picked up and chucked around and fighting, slugging out with Christopher Lee. Highly choreographed. They fight in Dracula Prince of Darkness as well, and he gets chucked over the sea and ends up by the fireplace. But they did it all over again, but much more protracted in this movie, and it's all cut out. To this day, no one knows why it's been cut out. Christopher Lee doesn't remember. Francis Matthews is livid about it. When he went to the premiere, he said, "Oh, this is my big scene. I trained for this, and 2 days filming, and then it's gone." Because what happens is the big fight's removed, and then suddenly, because he's been pushed over, then the fight should take place. It then cuts back to Boris getting stabbed and all that, and then by the window, you've got Francis Matthews, Kassilov is lying there all dishevelled, and Christopher Lee crawls over it, grabs him, picks up, and smashes him through the window. And it's a great. Can you imagine after a big protracted fight? This would be superb. Boosh through the window. Oh, he's like but Richard Pascoe as Boris, little Boris, has crawled across the floor with a knife in his back, and like grabs hold of like Rasputin's leg, and between the two of them, Kassilov and Boris, they manage to hurl Rasputin out the window. And although it's clearly a dummy, it's not a bad dummy, as dummies go. It's pretty effective. Takes a tumble, whoop, hits the deck, boof, and it's like the body crumples, and then we see like them looking. Well, I think Boris may have died at this point, but Francis Matthews looks out the window, and we see a crumpled up Christopher Lee Rasputin on the deck, on the ice, dead. And the film will actually end right there. Typical of Hammer, very, very abrupt ending. And in reality, and this is where the legend of Rasputin comes in. He poisoned him with not chocolates, but with cakes, sweet cakes, and wine, both of which were laced with cyanide, which he ate and drank. Everything. No effect. In the room above, full of assassins, there wasn't just 2 or 3, there was a whole mob of them. And they then went in and shot him, stabbed him, shot him 3 times, stabbed him. This is the legend, folks, the legend. Shot him, stabbed him, beat him, dragged him out, wrapped him up in ropes, took him to the river Nevsky, threw him over the bridge, onto the frozen water. He smashed through the ice, his body went under the ice, but Rasputinly, there were the scratch marks on the ice. Think Dracula Prince of Darkness, where he goes through the ice, Dracula at the end. He's like, Think of the symmetry of what's happening here. But scratch marks on the eye, so he's still alive. Now, the coroner's report, you gotta remember, like, you can't just kill Rasputin. This whole thing had to be really protracted and drawn out. In reality, what they reckon is they said that he drowned. Eventually, he succumbed to drowning. The coroner found no water in his lungs. Also found no trace of poisoning. I don't know. I have a book there which was written back in the 1920s, 1930s, not long after the assassination of, not too long after the assassination of Rasputin. And this guy apparently had access to the Kremlin hidden documents. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? And they said that, yeah, there was water found in his lungs, but no poison. And he had been shot 3 times and stabbed and slice marks and evidence of having been beaten after death. Well, if he's beaten after death, this way doesn't work. And there's water in his lungs, and he's meant to have drowned. Having water in his lungs, he's drowned. How was he beaten after death when his body was under the ice? Workers found his galosha on the ice, and bloodstains on the ice, and bloodstains on the bridge where he's obviously been pitched over. The rumours were that he was tied with ropes, but he'd obviously untied himself and was beginning to break free when clearly he succumbed to the water. Freezing water as well. But it adds to this legend that the fact that this guy couldn't die, or certainly it took a lot to kill him. Like people like Michael Myers. But now historians say the marks on his body were from him being tortured. He was shot 3 times. I think 2 in the body and 1 in the head. There's pictures of him, his body. There's a bullet hole right there, right there. Dudush, that's a Russian term for being shot in the head. Dudush, Dudushka, and but he had been beaten as well. So they reckon that it was British agents along with Russians, who were against him because of this thing about trying to bring peace between Russia and Germany. And obviously the Brits didn't want that because, oh my God, we're going to fight Germany and Russia. Not a good idea. So they've got to stop this. And the passionate Russian patriots didn't want any peace with Germany. So they had to get rid of this guy. So that's what the thinking is now, that the marks on his body were from torture, shot, tortured, and thrown in the river. And but the thing is, Yusupov, what's his name again? God, these names. Yusupov, who actually did admit to killing him, was quite open about the whole fact that he killed out. Yeah, it was part of it. But he himself embroidered the fact that this guy couldn't die. I meant to do this and this and this to kill him, and it took forever. Now, way back, I did mention that Rasputin had a family back in Siberia, a peasant family on a farm, which he loved. Believe it or not, you know, after all I've said about him, his harems, his this, his that, and his debauchery, he kept on going back to his family with money and looking after them, and he loved them. So, you know, go figure. I'm doing that dancing again. Hey, you can't see my feet, they're all over the place. My waist has spun round backwards now several times. Ooh, you just can't see it on the camera. And so he loved his family. And one of his daughters, I think his wife, said no, he would not have eaten sweet cakes. He didn't like sweet things. Now, that flies in the face of so many other legends. He loved sweet wine, sweet Madeira. And he was, Boris even says, as he's injecting the chocolates in the movie, so like, yeah, he'll love it. He's like a pig. He's voracious, he's like a pig. You know, but apparently he wasn't. So it's a lot of hearsay and rumour about, well, his life and about his death. Hammer just goes with, you know, the simple established facts. A faith healer, a prophet, a hypnotist, inveigles his way infiltrates the Tsarist regime, takes over while the Tsar's away, and just manipulates them for his own aims, and then gets assassinated because of people's personal grievances with him. The reality is so much bigger than that. But the film got panned because it it attempted to do so much and did so little with the story. It's easy to say that Hammer was reaching for the stars, but ended up hanging off the gutters of the roof, really. But I think they should be applauded for trying to at least do this and making a very, very entertaining film. It's colourful, it's energetic, it is owned, completely owned by Christopher Lee in what has to be one of his greatest ever performances, because he does so much. You know, the dancing, the whole hands-on, the attacks, the fights, the seductions, the rapes, everything. He is so wildly involved in the whole thing that he owns the film. But everyone else is good too. Barbara Shelley's tremendous in it. Francis Matthews, who isn't the most dynamic of actors, but he's still great in the role, and I do like that. Susan Farmer is barely in the film at all. Richard Pascoe's great, you know, as poor little Boris, and the music is tremendous, and this might actually be a piece of it right now. This is Rasputin. What Don Banks did for this score, it's not very Russian. It's not based on any Russian composer's work at all. It is just a sort of cod piece of historical, rousing, grandiose, you know, Sturm and Drang. But it's wonderful. I just wish you could get the full score. Gore-wise, the severed hand, acid on the face, the knife in the back is pretty good. The body hitting the deck afterwards is kind of cool. But what lets the film down is you don't have much of a story to really hinge all this upon. You know, he arrives in the court of the Tsars and all that, and like, but really you don't know why he's doing it. So there's no sort of hidden depth to what he's doing. No revealed depth to why he's doing it. No rhyme and reason. He just wants power. He doesn't necessarily want money. He knows he needs money to attain a certain amount of lifestyle and power as a consequence. But it's just, he wants power. So and the final fight, the final murder, it belittles Rasputin quite a bit. You just see him sitting there. Obviously he's been taken in by this ruse, and he's sitting there cross-legged eating chocolates and drinking wine. It's at odds with the character that they've built up in the film so far. What would have saved it, really, the conclusion, would be that fight, the big massive fight with Kasselov would have been superb. From what Francis Matthews says, they really went for it, and it would have been great. I've got a feeling it'd be like, you know, he'd have picked up Francis Matthews by the throat. He's probably been shot a couple of times, because, you know, I think they would have done all of the stuff that happened to the poisoning. Obviously didn't take effect, gave him a bit of a stomachache, but he came back to fight again. But they cut it all out. Who knows why? That would have given a real big payoff for the movie. As it stands, the film ends interestingly, but kind of, oh, he's out the window, oh, he's dead. Oh, is that it? Oh, right. Where's the Tsar again? And of course, the Romanov family, it didn't end well for them either, because the whole Eastern Front folded, and the Russians were right royally, massively defeated in the First World War. They had a revolution, 1917, wasn't it? Or was it earlier? You had two revolutions, and the Bolsheviks took over, and but the Romanov family were like put under house arrest. They were moved way out, put under house arrest, and then they got all the family, the extended family, and all the retainers were put in a cellar. And this just shows you how inept Russian assassins are, as if we didn't know. In the UK, we've had lots of Russian assassins doing nefarious things with horrible poisonous toxins and stuff, and infecting other people. And people, that poor guy that had plutonium pumped into him, who lingered on for like weeks and weeks, like, and ended up looking like David Tennant. They're not the best assassins in the world, despite what they may think. Not exactly Spetsnaz quality. So, although the attempt to take out Rasputin, whichever version you want to believe, didn't work at first, tried. Rasputin was also stabbed in the stomach in a previous assassination attempt by a woman who, I can't remember this now, Did she think did she accuse him of having raped her or something? I think it was something to do with that. And she stabbed him in the stomach, and he was badly injured, but of course he got over it. He put his own hands on and healed himself. And no, there was surgery involved. Which kind of makes a mockery of his own abilities, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So he'd been stabbed already, survived that, then shot, stabbed, beaten, you know, all these things. It took a mob of assassins to take him down, regardless of whether you tortured him or what. It still took a mob of them to do it, and to put several bullets in him as well. Anyway, but the Romanovs, I think there's about 12 or 15 in total, were put in his basement, and an entire squad of assassins came in with rifles and shot and shot and fired and shot some more, and the entire place filled up with gun smoke, and they killed about 3 people. The rest they'd either missed or just wounded, and they even hit some of their own hit squad. How shit is that? But they didn't stop there. Well, we've got to finish the job. So even though they've all shot themselves in the foot, literally, they then went over and bayoneted, you know, all the ones who were still alive, who still didn't die. So then they turned their rifles into clubs and bludgeoned them to death. Boof, boof, boof. These guys are shit at killing anybody. They then took the bodies, some of them, we can't dispose of the bodies, what are we going to do? Oh, well, dissolve them in acid. And wouldn't you know it, the acid didn't work. They couldn't dissolve the bodies. So they buried them somewhere, then moved them somewhere else. Then, because each time they buried them somewhere, they thought, oh, someone's going to tell them where they're buried. Oh, dug them up and buried them somewhere else. It was an utter fiasco. So, you know, Russian assassins, yeah, don't worry about them. They're inept. They'll do more harm to themselves than to you. Oops, said it now, haven't I? That's lasted well, hasn't it? But this, as I say, a ladybird brushstrokes take on Rasputin's life. If you don't know anything at all about the guy, this film won't give you a great deal of reality, but it's the basic elements of who he was, not his background at all, but you know, his charismatic nature, his wild volatility, his drunken debauchery, his sexual appetite. That's all there, and that's all well true. His hands-on healing, well true, well documented. His infiltration of the Tsarist regime and his then power he took over and advised for whatever purposes, that's all true as well, and that's in there, but you just don't know why he's doing it. He's on a big ego power trip. As a gothic horror, no. As a gothic melodrama thriller, yeah, it works. As a departure for Hammer, it's 75% successful. It's only the finale. You're not like learned anything at all about why he was doing what he's doing. Losing that big fight sequence, I think, it's the Achilles heel for this movie, because you want a big payoff. Christopher Lee's Rasputin is Dracula, just with dialogue and far more power. He's walking about in daylight, and he's got this. Women are enthralled to him. Men are just subservient, and he can use anyone at his whim. He is Dracula, just with dialogue. And as that, Christopher Lee is just excelling. He's having a ruthless ball doing it. And it really, really works. It comes across. And I find the film really, really enjoyable. You know, it's got fruity dialogue, and it's got a great performance from Christopher Lee. It's ribald, it's naughty, it's a bit risque. Not gore-wise, essentially, but sexually, it certainly has a lot of elements to it. Those who want to freeze frame, you know, Barbara Shelley, there may be a shot or two that she might want to be interested in. But as Barbara Shelley, who's a real, well, sorry, they're all dead now, but Barbara Shelley was really smitten with Christopher Lee in reality as well. And you can tell, listen to the commentaries and any interviews that she does about or did about these movies and relationship with him. He was a great pal, he's a great mate of mine. She is enthralled to him even when he's just waffling on about things which may or may not have happened in reality. She falls on every word he says, and his power on set, he mesmerised everybody. And funny enough, when Francis Matthews says something, she's eager to correct him, and I know that's not true. That's not true at all. No. And poor old Francis Matthews like, no, sorry. Oh, but you love him, don't you? But that's the power of Christopher Lee. Stop talking over me. God, for God's sake. That was Don Banks' score for The Mummy's Shroud. So yeah, folks, it's a film which people will not talk about. Rasputin the Mad Monk, Hammer. Oh shit, that one, isn't it? No, it's not. It's really, really enjoyable. It's full of colour, full of great, set design, full of bravura performance. Well, one mega bravura performance, a great score, and an interesting story. It does lack the payoff. That's the problem you've got with it. But I have a great time with it. I think it's well worth your time. It is available on Blu-ray, which is somewhere behind me. Yeah, somewhere there behind me. Yeah. And for that, you get a little making of thing, which doesn't really give a great deal, but talks a bit about Rasputin, the real guy himself, and the death. And you get a commentary from the mob, Barbara Shelley, Christopher Lee, Francis Matthews, who also did a commentary for Dracula Prince of Darkness. And they obviously sat on the same session. They did Dracula Prince of Darkness, and then right afterwards they sat and watched this. And and it makes interesting listening. It's just Christopher Lee is such, the big I am. He can't help himself. I'm a cousin of Ian Fleming. I was playing golf with him, and one thing he does say, I think on this commentary for this movie, he talks about James Bond and all that, and he says they mention on Her Majesty's Secret Service, my favourite Bond movie of all time, and Christopher Lee does say Lazenby, he was a very good Bond. I thought he was a great Bond. Of course, Christopher Lee was in Man with the Golden Gun as Scaramanga with the third nipple, facing off against Roger Moore, and so he knows a thing or two about Bond. And obviously he knew Gert Frobe as well, who played Goldfinger. He knew everybody. He's on pally terms with God and all that. And you can't argue with Christopher Lee. But he just mesmerised there. You will do as I tell you to do. You will go from here and you will destroy yourself. But it's great to see there is range in this role. He's having fun, he's getting drunk, he's womanizing, he's seductive, but he also, there's a rage to him. I think I just don't like the ending. I keep coming back to this. Regardless of the fight not being there, when he's getting bored waiting around for this supposed rendezvous with Susan Farmer's kind of, who you don't see again. She's barely in the, I keep saying it, she's barely in the movie. I've said that phrase, barely in the movie, more times than you actually see it on camera in the film. But when he's sitting there cross-legged, chocolates, it's, it reduces Rasputin's character down, to he's bored, mutter, oh, more wine. It just, sit there cross-legged, what's this? It's too humdrum. They could have really worked that better. I know they're trying to, sort of cinematically speaking, paraphrase the reality where he was kept waiting because they didn't know how to do it. Everyone was nervous about taking him out, and this fucking poison. The poison, some historians say, was never there. Well, why were they waiting for so long then? They're waiting for something to take effect. I think they did try and poison him, and it simply didn't work. Didn't put enough in, obviously, but whatever. Note to self: when using poison, use it all. Use it all. Don't use it sparingly. Use all of it. Take no prisoners. Take no chances. Anyway, Rasputin the Mad Monk. Neither a monk nor mad, but very charismatic. And I mentioned Russian patriotism before. Well, he was, in the fact that this is the real life Rasputin. He loved the peasantry, the common man. He was fiercely defensive of the common man, which could be why he infiltrated and inveigled his way into the Tsarist regime to rework things to maybe better them. I don't know all of that for any kind of fact, any kind of substantiated reasoning, but kind of makes sense in a way. He's a profoundly complex, complicated guy, and he was working for the betterment of the people he came from. Don't forget, he kept on going back to his family up in Siberia. He kept on going back to them with money and like, we've heard of what you've been up to in St. Petersburg. You disgust me. But my dear, I have all this gold for you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Fancy some wine? Maybe some sweet cakes. Oh, you don't like sweet cakes, do you? No, you don't. Anyway, it is what it is. And, oh, those Russians. I'm dying to play Bony M, but I've got a feeling that might go against me. So even though I want to, I'm not going to do it. And in fact, that song, the lyrics, do tell pretty much, the story of Rasputin as Hammer told it. So, those two work really well. Anyway, if you can be bothered watching it, because most people just like, dismiss it. You shouldn't. It has all the artistry, the camera work, the passion that goes into most of the gothic Hammer horrors, which we all know and love. It's here. It's definitely here in spades in this movie. So you could definitely waste 90 minutes in worse ways than by watching this. So there you go, folks. Rasputin the Mad Monk, 1966, directed by Don Sharp, with Christopher Lee in. Yeah, it's arguably his most dynamic, aggressive, involving, an exciting role. Yeah, the Duke the Richlow is outstanding in The Devil Rides Out. Yeah, I know. And obviously he's Dracula's and various monsters, but he owns this. He's in almost every scene, pretty much. He's in a good 85% of this movie, without any shadow of a doubt. And he owns everything. And even when he's not in a scene, his presence dominates it. So, yeah, can he go wrong? I says, I'm trying to stretch it out to an hour and a half, the length of the movie. So we've got a bit more time to kill. Michael Ripper's in there, let's say, just doing a voiceover, overdubbing this other guy, for whatever reason that is. Why is it Michael Ripper in this movie? Well, clearly because he was doing something else. Very, very, very clearly. Very busy boy was Michael Ripper. Hammer movies, obviously, throughout the 60s, well, the 50s and the 60s. So he was busy doing something else. But he would have lent something to it. So you get that character as well, Christopher Lee calls Little Father. We'll get money. Well, don't we, Little Father? We're going back to St. Petersburg. And then you get there and he's binned this guy off. But then again, that's, I suppose, symptomatic of the fact that Rasputin just uses people. He gave him the idea about St. Petersburg. Right, well, we're going there. You need money. Okay, well, once I get there, I'll get money. So he meets Boris, wins money off him. But Boris, you're a doctor. You've got digs. I need to stay somewhere. I'll use you as a home base for the time being. I can use you to get to know you and yeah, it all kind of works out. And in a nice sort of role reversal for Hammer, the aristocracy, the nobles, aren't bastards. They're victims. They fall under the spell of a peasant guy who actually is the bastard. So it's a complete reversal of what their ethos usually is. You look at Howling the Baskervilles, Curse the Werewolf, the Reptile, Plague of the Zombies. It's the rich class, the nobles, the aristocrats, the lords, the earls. They're debauched, they're bastards, and they use and persecute the underdog all the time. In this, it's the other way around. The underdog rises, and abuses and manipulates them, the ruling class. Good on him, I say, good on him. We need more Rasputins. Oh dear, where are we on now? Oh, we're almost at an hour and a half. In a few seconds. I'll just drink this. Oh, it's heading towards Bony M. See, if I played it now, I'd put the video up and it'd get blocked. After all this, it get blocked for like the last thing, so I'm not going to do it. Right, folks. I have been, I know we shall be KILT-MAN, so please, in the meantime, and this ever, ooh, put the healing hands on. And get the fever into yourself. Screw that. If you're ill, I'm not touching you, I'm not going near you. Bugger that one off. In between time. Please, keep it Kilty, keep it Kilty. I'm going to see you all on a frozen moat near you. Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen.